Hi friends, welcome to Cloud Coach. Let's start with the webinar. It's 4 minutes past 8 p.m. IST. So to start with, I'll brief you about what Cloud Coach is all about and myself, and then we'll go through the further steps as the discussion proceeds. So Cloud Coach is an initiative to Cloud Coach is an initiative for as a kind of a one-stop solution for all educational needs, and what we intend to do here is to give a seamless learning platform for one and all. Right, that's our mission statement. So the mission statement is to provide seamless education, training, consulting to the real world without any barriers. So if you are looking for something like academic purpose for your kid who's into, I don't even set a barrier saying like only primary or high school or whatever is your questions are, you can directly get in touch with us. And even for college going students, if they need assistance with projects, with live projects, then placement assistance, and that's where we come in handy. And then again, with respect to professional trainings and with specialized tools or a specific technology that has to be learnt in, that's where we come in handy with. So this is our mission statement. To be very broader, we provide seamless education, training, consulting to the real world without any barriers. So yes, we'll move ahead. So when initially we thought of it, right, how to come up with the concept and what is required and how to get started, what should be our first step, there are a couple of things that came in as a problem. I won't say it as a very big problem or something like that, but then initially, yes, these were the steps that we had to cross so that we can successfully be in a situation where we are today. Right? The first thing was especially with respect to costing. Right? That is what the main step for any entrepreneur that comes on. The first step is always towards the costing. So we saw that the cost was involved with respect to staffing, infrastructure, and then marketing. So we had to come up with a real plan as to where all these three will be placed and how to get rid of it, because each and every stage as it passes on, the cost was seeming to be getting multiplied over and over again and again. So so we had a detailed plan laid out and then come up with a solution for each of these problem. So the solution that we came up was, for the staffing especially, we wanted professionals from the IT industry. Why IT industry to start with? Because I being from the IT industry, again I'll brief about myself a little later in the coming slides. To brief about why we choose IT industry was only that, but however we didn't restrict ourselves based on the queries that comes up and then the need and the necessity. Based on the need of the hour, we go and pick up what is required in the current industry or the current market trend, and then help people to get connected with the right person in that particular industry. Right. So with respect to staffing, we decided we were anyways a team of IT professionals who were very eager to start off. So that is how we decided staffing will be taken care by us alone. And then with respect to the infrastructure, yes, we are 100% online at this point in time. We are 100% online. You will see us in YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other places. But then we don't have a physical presence. To some people it may seem like a disadvantage, but to me, in the current trend and how the world is going forward, I think this is a main advantageous step, I would say, because we are not located only in Bangalore or let's say Mumbai or Delhi. We're not restricted anywhere. Probably now I'm conducting this webinar. People have registered who are in Gurgaon. People are there in Orissa and other places. Place doesn't really become a barrier. So that is one thing that is a very positive side of it. And to be honest, on the other side, now that this goes up on as a recording, right, this is there on YouTube for years to come, till the time YouTube is there, and then this will be there as part of the recording. Anybody who wants to watch it can come and listen to it at a particular time. Let's say somebody was not able to attend the webinar, right, he or she has the flexibility to listen to it at a later point in time, and then get in touch with us. Of course, right, we are there to help. right? And then marketing, yeah, of course, marketing is now, the social media is so powerful that you post a message, you publicize a video, and then share it among your friends, and it's like the Big Bang Theory. It never stops growing, and then finally it reaches a big pool of consumers. I don't even mention them as consumers now, because we're all consumers of information, right? So the as and when the information is available, people have access to it, and then that is what is the marketing strategy right now. So let me move on with the next slide. So about myself, I'm a software engineer by profession, into the QA automation profession over the past 12 years, and have worked with companies like IBM. That is where I started to work in the year 2006, and then learned myself a couple of automation tools. In fact, IBM gave me the platform to enter into automation, where I got a hands-on on rational performance tester and also into rational functional tester. So I had the flexibility to work on both the sides, not to restrict myself into functional testing alone, but also to work on the performance part of it. So rational tools alone gave me a huge exposure into a lot of rational suite altogether. So that's where I got a chance to do a case study or a feasibility study, and compare it with different tools that were available in the market at that point in time. Maybe I would say QTP was one of the most relevant and most something which was very near to RFT at that point in time, right? So some things like this. And also moving after that, got a hands on Test Complete, and then Selenium, and recently into Protractor, and then many tools on the way. So I actually consider myself as a tool specialist, and then when I speak to a lot of managers and other people in the field right now, I generally say them it's a matter of learning a tool which takes like a week's time maximum, right? So that is where I consider picking up a new tool and working on a new technology is what is definitely required for anybody to survive in the IT industry. I would not even say restricted to IT industry particularly. In any industry, that is what is required. So, right. So this is what I have been for the last 12 years, picking up a new tool, working on it, and as and when there's a need or a demand for a new technology to be learnt on, again, spend some time on it and learn, and then work on it, do the implementation, and then build over and over again. So that is what I am. So next, when I was in my initial days, like in 2006, when it was a campus hire to IBM. So I was actually put into quality team. There was a big organization called as Global Test Organization. So I was part of the Global Test Organization. People from sometime 2005, 2006 in IBM can actually vouch for this. They know that the Global Test Organization was a very huge organization in IBM at times where many companies did not even account it for having a quality team in their organization. So IBM had a very big organization called Global Test Organization, and I was put in there. And then I used to sit and think, I'm good at coding, I do a lot of development work, I know Java, I know C++. I don't know why I have been put into quality, or why I have been made a or given a role of a tester, right? So then I gradually learned, studied, and understood that quality is the most important part of the product. Where anybody can build a product, who has a knowledge of a programming language can come up with a product, but ultimate quality deliverable comes out only after a QA engineer certifies the project. So that is what I learned over there. So let's understand what is quality. First of all, the basic building block for a QA engineer is to understand what is quality, right? So there are many definitions. You go on Google and search, you will find hundreds and thousands of definitions, but then at the end of it, it all boils down to only a couple of things, or rather I would even say it boils down to one single thing, right? So let's see what it is, right? So it people say quality is something based on judgments by an individual or an organization. Yes, several organizations have their own definition for quality, and then they try to match the results to the expectations, and that's what they define as quality. Some people say it's fitness for a purpose. Definitely there has to be a purpose for a product or a service or a deliverable, there has to be a purpose, and only if the purpose is met, then the product is of the quality that is expected, right? And then corresponds to an acceptable and accepted standards, right? There has to be a standards, it has to be measured against a particular standard that has been previously accepted, and then it is based on acceptable performance. Yes, performance is also part of the quality, and then it has to meet its goals. Yeah, goals is a very wide term. Goals can include a lot of things, ranging from performance to how it should look, the screen, the usability, and then the certification. Everything can be put across in the term goals. Yes, that's one thing. So all put together, I would say, as a QA engineer, as a software tester, what quality means is meeting the requirements. Exactly. So whatever is the requirements, if the product is functioning as per the requirement, then the product is a quality product, right? At the end of the day, what we want to ensure is that the product meets the quality guidelines. That's it. So let's move to the next step, which is quality assurance, right? So we just learned what is quality in a very layman term. To put it in a very textual format, I would say quality is the ability of a product to be able to satisfy the users, right? If a product is built for a particular category of users, then if it has the ability to satisfy the users, then it is a quality product, right? And then what is quality assurance? Now, okay, we have a product and we say that the product is of a certain quality, but how do we assure that yes, this is a quality product, right? That assurance comes through demonstration. So quality assurance is a process that demonstrates that the product is able to satisfy the users, right? It's a process. Quality assurance is a process, right, that demonstrates the quality of the product. Like it gives you a certification saying that yes, this product ensures you this quality, and then this is what was expected, because the quality is measured against the requirements. So ultimately it has to satisfy the users. That is the end goal. Okay, now what are the problems that generally people face, right? This is one interesting thing, right? When people think of software testing, there's a lot of problems that people face, right? There are many problems that you guys could think of. I'm getting some comments on the chat. Yes, I guess everybody is able to hear me. Okay, right. So software testing or quality assurance is usually the part of the project which makes grown men weep. Yeah, I some 100% agree to it, because you go and ask anybody in the testing space, either they are towards the end of the testing life cycle, which gives them very small amount of time, which is even if the project schedule had, let's say, 1 month, one full month for testing, probably the first 5 days or 6 days or even 10 days is eaten up by the deliverables delayed, the code freeze did not happen, some deliverables missing, and you're not able to start the testing. Yes, and this is the routine. It happens everywhere, right? And it is inevitable, because at the end of the day, whether you're a developer or you're a tester, the goal of the team is to deliver a quality product. So we'll have to work coherently, collaboratively with the teams, with multiple teams in fact. So the testing team or the quality team is always under the pressure to work with multiple teams, and then with the crunch schedule still deliver the product on time, right? Because the delivery dates are not gonna move. It's only that you just have to squeeze in yourself and make sure that the product is delivered. And the third thing is, the second thing, ever shrinking schedule and minimal resources, right? This is what happens, right? The schedule is eaten up by a lot of people, starting from the design to the development, and now at the end of the testing you have very limited amount of time. And again, the resources, there's always a crunch, right? The crunch of knowledgeable resources, right? That is what is required. And also, let's say if everything is going smooth on a daily basis, then it becomes a routine stuff, right? Which is like, yeah, you come in the morning, then you will have to execute some set of test cases, or you'll have to write some test cases, you'll have to review some requirements, right? So that's a monotonous state. So this is the problem. So what is the solution? When you think of a solution, the best suited solution or the best fit solution in these cases is to come up with an approach, an automation approach, which will not consume so much of time in executing the repetitive tasks, and also gives you a space to think on, work on new features, and also come up with some out of box uh, thoughts, right? So let's see what is automation, right? Because now automation is the trend. Automation is the trend in the industry. Automation is what is driving people crazy, driving the industry crazy. Everybody in the software space now is looking for automating the tasks. So what is automation? So automation is nothing to do with any particular industry as such. You go to automobile industry, yes, they have automation. You go to school, yes, they also have a lot of automation process. The HRMS system is automated, or they have the administrative processes automated. There are a lot of automation that is happening everywhere. So in general terminology, what is automation? So automation is a process. Again, automation is again a process. It is not just something like uh, it is not a baseline, it is not a measurement, it is a process. Automation is the use of tools and strategies that reduce human involvement or interaction in an unskilled, repetitive, or redundant tasks. Right, this is the textbook definition of automation. Although nowadays automation has again taken up a new steps, and then we do a lot of automation on a non-repetitive things also, or something which we have been doing it for the first time also, because this terminology is something like, yes, regression test cases. With respect to a testing terminology, regression test cases were termed for automation, where actually our regression test cases are your first specimen for automation. But in today's world, we do a progressive automation also. There's nothing like only regression test cases will be automated. Even progressive test cases are also being automated, and I have personally have been couple of projects where progressive test cases were automated, and it works. There's no doubt about that. But for a textbook definition or traditional way of explaining how automation works, is generally how we do is to remove the human involvement, to eradicate the human involvement or interaction in an unskilled, because it does not require any skill. It is a repetitive steps that has to be done for, let's say, 100 number of times, right? So a redundant task. So that is how typically automation is defined. Let's see how automation life cycle looks like. Right here, multiple organizations and companies may have their own life cycles, but then a standardized structure is what I have tried to bring up here. So this gives you a clear picture of how a QA automation life cycle looks like, right? Let's start with the first stage is to start with the decision to automate testing, because it all starts with a decision. The first, you'll have to make a decision to automate testing. Yes, because there are a lot of things that is going on in an organization. There's a development phase, there's a manual testing phase that is happening, release activities, and then the management is in between, a lot of mess. And making a decision to get into automation is again going to be a bigger decision, because automation itself is a life, has its own life cycle, which has to be integrated within to the software development life cycle again, right? So decision to automate testing. And the second thing comes is, as I was talking earlier, I was involved in a lot of comparison of tools, or feasibility study, feasibility analysis, what you can call, to which tool to choose and what are the pros and cons. So a lot of analysis has to be done. So you need to, test tool acquisition comes to be like the process wherein you need to do a lot of research. So you need to have a dedicated team doing all this. And then the third thing is automated testing introduction process, because what process are you going to follow? When will you start with automation, right? And then what are the test cases that will be marked for automation? Well, because you cannot start with 100% automation, right? You'll have to identify some regression test cases or some test cases which are suitable for automation to start with, right? And then we move on to the test planning state. That's where you start planning like what percentage of test cases will be getting into automation, and how many days is it gonna take, and what approach you are going to take, what will be the framework, right? What framework are we going to do? And then also the development of it, right? Because based on the tool, the framework will change, and based on the framework, the planning has to go in, the tools and technology has to be learned, and then moves on to the fifth stage, which is the execution and management of tests. Here again the tough task comes in, because every stages you're looking at from the stage number 1 till right now we are in stage number 5. Look at the manpower. When it's in a decision to automate testing, yeah, maybe you need very few people in the team, because it's a decision. Maybe a management and then a subject matter expert in the team can give an opinion. An architect, a QA architect, is be more than enough to make a decision whether automation is required and how it can be useful, and come up with a feasibility study. Yes, a QA architect can do that. But then when it comes to the test planning, design and development, the team has to be ramped up. So for the team to ramp up again, they need to have the knowledge of the tool, the framework that we are going to use and how to implement it, and the person needs to have the knowledge on the application also, or the product that we are going to automate as well. So that becomes a difficult part, because you need manpower here. But then when you go again into the execution phase, probably not that much of a manpower is required, because during execution it's only about executing the test cases and making sure that the results are updated back in Jira or your QC or whatever method that you're following, right? You get the reports and then the management of test cases to ensure that the test cases are still relevant. They're not failing on a consistent basis, that they're still relevant. Nothing has changed with respect to those test cases. And then again it goes to the test program review and assessment for the final approval, and then you go live and then implement it as a continuous process. So this is what it is for a complete life cycle, a QA life cycle. If we go back, QA automation life cycle, let me put it. So because now if you look at it, you have the SDLC, your software development life cycle. Within itself you have a QA regular manual life cycle, also manual testing life cycle also, and inside that manual testing cycle you need to find out the space where you can actually plug in the QA automation life cycle. Right, there are many organizations which actually run QA and automation, the manual QA and the automation QA in parallel as a separate organizations also. But yes, definitely there has to be a thin borderline of separating the manual and the automation, right? So there's a lot of management decisions that has to be taken. There's a lot of QA architectural work that has to be done, research that has to be done to understand what tools and technologies to be used in, and the procurement of the tools and technology, and the knowledge related to that, the manpower, and all of them had to be considered for this, right? Let's move on. So with all this task involved, which actually looks like a very big task at this point in time, why should somebody go for automation, right? The simple reason is, as we have already understood, that automation is going to consume a lot of time while you are in the building phase of it. When the development stage, if we go back, right, in the stage number 4 is what is gonna eat up most of the time, probably 2, 3 and 4, I would say. Stages 2, 3 and 4 is gonna eat up a lot of time. But then if you have put in enough detailed information and also analysis to understand and actually pick the right scenarios, right candidates for automation. Yeah, that's the right terminology. If you have picked up the right candidate for automation, then the next cycles becomes easier. Probably you will have to just go through a few modifications and addition of test cases, and then again go through the stage 5, which goes towards execution. Is other stages would have already been done, right? So when you do it for the first time, yes, definitely I'm sure you'll have to put in a lot of effort in all of them, but then it is not repetitive. This effort is not repetitive. This is a one time effort that you put in, and after this, anytime you want to execute the test cases, you have the suite ready. The test case suites are ready. You just have to kick off the test, and it will be taken care. So that is how it works. And now it does, what can it do? Why automation? It can do the verification and validation of the requirements, yes, of course, and the defects and failures caused by misunderstood requirements or coding errors, yes, definitely. And then also the compatibility of the software. Let's say every version change, the right, the compatibility also has to be tested, because when we say verification and validation of requirements is a basic thing that we start with. Maybe you can use your automation for doing your smoke tests, right? Let's say when you do a fresh deployment, the code is deployed. Now you can integrate with, let's say I'm using Jenkins to build, right, and I'm using, let's say, Selenium or Protractor for my automation, right? I can make sure that as soon as any new build comes in and the build is deployed, there's a set of test cases that are executed automatically, and the results are stored, and also report is sent to the management and the people concerned, so that we know that everything has gone very smooth, the build was successful, and then what are the incorporated changes did not impact the test cases, existing test cases, right? So this ensures that the defects and the failures caused by misunderstood requirements or coding errors also. Yes, right. So what are the advantages and disadvantages? See, automation does a lot of value addition, but then again, right, there's a saying which says like there's a price that has to be paid for everything, right? There are no free meals, right? This automation comes with a lot of advantages, but yes, there's a very minimum amount of price that has to be paid. So what is the price that we are going to pay? If you look at the price first, the disadvantages, yes, it requires tools and trainings, right? You have a company as an organization, if you are starting automation for the first time, or the project is accounted for a project funding, right? This has to be cost involved in procuring the tools, and also there has to be training that to be given to the teams, because procurement of tools is one part, and then right, knowledge advancement into the team is the second thing, right? Both of them are at the company's cost. And the second thing is manpower requirement for test preparations, because as I was discussing in the earlier phase, we're in phase 4, we may require huge number of resources to speed up this process, otherwise which is gonna take more number of time, more number of hours. If you want to reduce this one, right, we need to pull in more resources, right? But then again, going back to the next stages in the execution and management of test cases, we may not require so many resources, so the manpower has to be planned accordingly, and also the schedule has to be planned accordingly. It cannot happen overnight that somebody comes in, we hire 10 people, do the automation, and then the next day we don't know what happens to them, right? So everything has to be done in a very planned way. And then we come to the coverage area. As I was talking in the beginning, now coverage area for automation is still a concern, even though we talk about progressive test cases, not only regression, but still there are large area that cannot be automated. Even when companies which say that yes, we work on automation, this definitely maximum of 70%, okay, let's say 75% of automation is what can be achieved. The rest of it still remains to be unautomatable. The various reasons to it, maybe it requires manual intervention, maybe it requires the files to be downloaded or something, or uh, some manual intervention which is required, right? Because again, at the end of the day, all products are built in such a way that it has to interact with the humans and help the humans in doing the tasks, right? So at some point or the other, it requires human intervention. And then these are the disadvantages if you look at it as an overview. But if you look at the disadvantages once again, it is something like we are talking about the cost involved in the training on the tool and then procuring the tool, but then it's a one time cost, right? It's a one time cost, saying that you just procure it once and then you have the tool with you. You just train your people once and then you have trained manpower with you. With that manpower, we're talking about the manpower requirement for test preparations. Let's say you have 10 people working on the project, and then suddenly the project moves to the execution phase. What to do with your next 10 people, right? Then you may have to plan projects accordingly, where you take up more work on that particular skill, because now you know that particular skill, you mastered the skill, right? The management has to do a lot of tasks on that, but it has a high advantages for on the company and the organization, the team, right? Automation has a real advantage. It's a one time price that has to be paid, but then the advantages are high, right? Let's look at the advantages. Yeah, it's highly reliable because it eliminates the human error. It is highly reliable, reusable, you can execute it n number of times. Let's say there's a build that gets every developer is releasing a new build, and you want to execute smoke tests as and when the build comes in. Yes, you can just schedule it, and then every new build that comes in execute some set of test cases, right, which ensures better quality software, because at the end of the day the customer pays you for a quality software, right? The customer cannot downgrade the quality of the software for the price that he pays. And then it's fast, the time to market becomes very quick, right? Because today's day time is money, right? You give a better product, a quality product at a faster time to market, the customer is more than happy to give you the pay you more, right? And then cost reduction, just because it's a one time investment, but then over and again you start reusing the same thing, it becomes highly reliable, reusable, and with a very low cost, right? Let's go to the next. Okay, how to choose the right one. So this is the biggest task. There are lots and lots and lots of tools that are available in the market, but how do you pick the right one that is perfectly fitting the requirement that you have in your organization or in your project, right? So a lot of things that has to be looked in. You have to look at the compatibility, the performance, the types of tests that you want to automate, and then how easy is it to maintain over a period of time, and also the affordability, right? Because at the end of the day it is a cost, right? It is a cost to the company, right? So all these things has to be kept in mind, which varies from a tool to tool, because some tools are open source, some are paid, which comes with a lot of support, and a lot of other technologies may not be covered in freewares, and right. So you need to check on each and everything: compatibility, performance, types of tests, maintainability, and affordability. Cool. So what next? Right, so till now we have learned about what is quality, what is quality assurance, and then why automation, and then what what do we look in automation tool, and what are the advantages, disadvantages of automation tools, and then what we should be doing right now is to deep dive into different QA automation tools that are available in the market, and see what are the pros and cons of each of them, and discuss more about what they could benefit us in different ways, right? So I would wish to hear back something from you guys on what would be a Q automation tools that are currently running in the market. So what would be your interest upon? And then probably based on a small conversation and a survey, we will pick up a specific automation tool and have our webinar on a particular automation tool that you guys would come up with, right? Which is of your interest, rather than me giving you a particular automation tool. I would like to hear back from you, which automation tool would you be more interested to, right, learn, and then I would be more than happy to help you with that, right? So guys, any Q&A, we can use the Q&A section, right? You can type in your questions in the Q&A section. Okay. Okay, I have a question here. Santosh asks me, okay. Okay, Santosh has a request. He says, when would be the next webinar? Can we know a bit early in advance? Sure, I'm planning to have webinars every Tuesday around the same time. and probably I will by next time have a kind of a survey to understand what tools would be feasible for people, and then address that also along with a particular time. Okay, so also Prashant has a question. He says there's an automation requirement and he wants to work on Selenium. So Selenium is available freely as downloaded and he's trying to learn. So can I get some video references from you to learn the tool more effectively? Sure, Prashant, I do not have any thing that I do not have any of the videos that are pre-recorded. Probably if I do anything, any recordings, I'll make sure that I upload it, or we'll see to if we can come up with a webinar on Selenium itself for the next week. Sure. Guys, I hope if there's anything, please feel free to subscribe to the channel Cloud Coach, and then you keep getting on a lot of tech videos also going forward. And also, we will be conducting live webinars where you get notified as and when there's a webinar alert that comes in. Right. So, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the webinar. It was informative and will help you to take a good decision in your work, right? So yeah, so guys, yeah, that's it for now. Hope to see you all next week. Take care. Bye bye.